What is up, degenerates? Oh, hold on, you guys. Technical difficulties right off the rip. I have double audio in my ears. It's okay. We fix it. What's up, degenerates? This is Locked In, and boy, how we've missed you. It's that time of year. It's the Bettors Christmas. It is the NFL 2024 regular season. I'm your host, Mason P. Cameron at PFF_Mace on Twitter. And with me, as always, my partner in crime, Vishaal Gupta at Vishaal_Gupta95 on Twitter. It's another season. Man, we have been doing this for so many years now. It always feels like the first time again when we get to link back up. How are you doing? How are you living? Are you ready to make some money tonight?
I am doing great. This was another very long off season with not a lot going on. So very, very happy. Football is back. We had a great opener last night, and we just have 5, 6 straight months of football to look forward to. Unbelievable time of year.
I'm so excited for it. What a way to start the season too. Like the game last night was amazing, and we're going to break into that too here. So for anybody that is new or has forgotten, because like V said, it's been a long off season. I forgot how to even hit the buttons back here. So it's okay. We keep it pushing. But for anybody that has forgotten, the way that we do this is we're going to start off with our Thursday night football betting recap, which is going to feature an awesome game that I'm sure every single person in their dog watched. And then we move into our picks for the week and our community questions. So this year, we've added a new little wrinkle into the mix, and we decided to give even more access to all of you guys. So what we're doing starting this season is that we have created a special community betting thread over in our Discord. Become a member at importantnonsense.com. If you're not and you're not already in there, go do it. And that's how you get access to our sports betting chat, where, of course, you can ask us questions in there. But if you want us to break down your entire ticket, you want us to see what, myself and what V has to offer you, and it's maybe a little bit of added value, then go ahead and drop your questions in there all week long. And at the end of the week, we will answer them all live on this show so that you guys have all the info you need to win some damn money. So I'm excited. Unfortunately, though, V, we have no questions this week because it's still getting underway. But so for anybody that does want to get in there, get your questions answered, I'm really excited for that. But as well, business as usual, we're also going to break down all of our picks from this week. We don't end up hitting every single game, which is why you guys want to go get your picks in there, go get your questions in the community questions tab. But we do pick a lot of the games, and we're going to touch on a bunch of them. So we have a ton of games picked out here that we like, that we see some added value in. We're going to break them down. We're going to get into it. And then another new addition is usually we would also include our primetime games, Sunday night football, Monday night football. But sometimes we haven't always had, picks that we liked right early in the week that we were going to get in there. Sometimes we find added value throughout the week and we would add them into our Discord. But what we're going to be doing this year is we are going to save all of our prime time picks, Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night football. We are going to have picks for those all over in the Discord. So make sure you go check it out and go see what we have to offer. That's where you're going to get all of our primetime picks. I know that we have a couple of really, really good ones because there's some great games this week in primetime. So you guys are definitely not going to want to miss that. Head over to the Discord, become a member over at importantnonsense.com. Yeah. See? Just like riding a bike. V, I told you the intro's not so hard. But V, are you ready to fucking do this thing? We have Thursday night football betting that we get to recap. I'm going to break down what happened at first, but then we're going to launch into it, V, and I'm going to get your thoughts on how the game played out. So what we saw was Baltimore unfortunately fell 20-27 on the road to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs covered -3. The total for that game was 46. Oh, wait, actually, I have a nice little graphic here too.
Well, there
I
you
forget
go.
about my graphics. There we go. And my computer flashed out for a second. That's okay. There we go. We have our little graphics. So Baltimore falls 20-27 to the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of the AFC title game last year. It was a wild game. Give me your breakdown of that. What did you think of this one?
Great game, obviously. We can start there. Just a phenomenal way to start the season. I think my big takeaway from the game, though, was I think just like last season, we're going to be talking a lot about Kansas City's defense again this season. I thought they were tremendous last night. Even they lost L'Jarius Sneed in the offseason to a trade to Tennessee, but it really does not look like they lost a step at all. They still look like they were all over the place. They knew exactly what to do to stop Lamar. He got his yardage on the ground like he normally does. Nobody's going to stop that, but they did a really, really nice job stopping that passing attack. I know this game went slightly over by a point or half a point, depending on where you found it, but really it was all based off that fluky Isaiah Likely touchdown. Great play by him, great play by Baltimore's offense. But if you take that out, which is a very, I think that the next gen stats had that a 0.3% chance of that being a touchdown when that play was developing. So extremely unlikely touchdown. Outside of that, Kansas City's defense was phenomenal last night. So again, I think you're going to hear a lot us talk about Kansas City defense, Kansas City unders a lot this season. Again, that was my big takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Jalen Watson had a nice play there, stepping in for L'Jarius Sneed.
Yep,
Chris Jones looked absolutely unblockable, which
monster.
I'll get into more in a second. But they looked great defensively. And then, of course, you just have Andy Reid, man. Andy Reid is an absolute wizard. I'm not sure how he gets away with some of the stuff he does. I got caught up and finished watching the game probably 45 minutes after everybody else because I just got caught up there watching some of the play designs. It's a
Yep.
lot of fun to see him work. And whew, man, defenses dedicate so much attention to Travis Kelce that he was just running guys in trails behind him and then just throwing to wherever the coverage or wherever Travis Kelce's gravity pulled the coverage. It seems like he's a planet out there with how much gravity he just pulls in defenders. They just double him, they try to high-low him, and it just leaves guys wide open following him. So
Yeah,
they took
that's
a
why it
lot of
doesn't
advantage of that.
matter what the receivers are for Kansas City. Anybody can get that wide open if you're playing in the NFL. So you can put anybody out there, and it looks easy. It's obviously not. Mahomes was making crazy plays behind the line of scrimmage, avoiding sacks, avoiding tackles, and then was able just to reset himself and find the open guy downfield. Like he's obviously the best at that. So you're absolutely right. Travis Kelce just makes everything so much easier for the rest of his teammates because it just leaves everybody so open.
Yeah, it's insane. And then you have plays drawn up for Xavier Worthy. This dude's the real deal. I'm not gonna lie. I faded thinking Xavier Worthy was gonna be a huge trendsetter or franchise changer for this team, but so far through 1 week, I feel very, very wrong about that because they put him in the perfect position to
Yep.
win games, to make plays. 3 touches, 2 scores. That just doesn't happen.
No, and the
That
best
just
part is it's not like he's their number one guy. He's not even their
no.
number two guy. You allow him to be your three or four. So, after a while, defenses kind of forget about you because they're so focused on Kelsey or Rasheed
Or
Rice or Isaiah
Rice. Yeah.
Pacheco that allows Worthy to just get open like he did on a second touchdown, which is a blown coverage. They just forgot about him because I think they were so focused on everybody else. I think that's what
Yeah.
is so great about how this offense is set up is if he has to be your one, you're probably concerned it's probably not going to work out that well. If he's your three or four, it's phenomenal.
It seemed like all game long, the Chiefs were having windows that you see when Alabama goes and plays roast beef tech. Like
Yeah.
they were literally the biggest windows you could imagine. Busted coverages all over the place. It was a tough look for the Ravens defense a little bit last
Yeah.
night with some of those miscommunications. And again, we talked about Rashee Rice, 7 for 9, 103 yards. The guy is just a wizard. He is just a
Yeah.
great route runner. They get him the ball in ways and let him work. Excellent after the catch. So we love watching that. I mean, it happens that they were struggling a little bit on offense last year. I don't see that being a problem for them now this year. And with the defense being as strong as it is, they're
There's
going
a
to be hard
reason
to stop.
they're as big a favorite to three-peat as they are. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I was one of the people who's fading them thinking, well, the offense took a step back. Maybe they're not going to be as good as they were. I'm wrong. Andy Reid's a
Wrong.
wizard, and that's just how it goes. But it's good to realize that now, early on in the year, so we can make some money off of that. That's all that
Yeah,
really matters at this
we're gonna
point.
be hammering Kansas City spreads and unders again all season, and it's
All
gonna
season
continue
long.
to be profitable.
It is 100%. And then the other breakdown that I saw from this game was just Baltimore's holes on their roster got exposed terribly. The whole right side of the offensive line is porous. Chris Jones, like we said, looked unblockable. There were a couple where he took Patrick McCarry at one point one-handed and swam him straight to the ground. +2 on that pass rush for me.
Yeah.
Legitimately one of the most masterful performances on the line that I've seen in a while. They didn't get any separation from the receivers. They need a true number one receiver. It brings to questions why they haven't been in the market for a true number one, even a cost effective one. I know you could probably potentially go get Cortland Sutton from the Denver Broncos for not terribly expensive. I understand that they weren't in on Ayuk, which in my opinion is a mistake, as Ayuk could have really been a presence for this offense when what we're seeing so far in this offense has not looked great. In a crucial point in the game, 2 minutes left in the game, KC started playing cover one robber double spy. That is not a defense you see in crucial opportunities like that unless you are 100% not concerned about anything happening on the outside. And outside of the complete random Rashard Bateman kind of
Yeah.
catch there that I was scratching my head over, outside of that, they really didn't get anything. And then we talk about the last ending of the game. You talked about, the Isaiah Likely touchdown, and then there's the, near misses to both Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone. I'm not sure who's drawing up the protection for this offense right now, or if Lamar is supposed to be checking this protection, or if the line checks this protection, or what's happening. But in the final 2 plays of this game, they left Justice Hill one-on-one with Chris Jones and slanted the line the other way. I'm not sure on what planet that is good, sound strategy, but it's not this one. It's not the universe that we live in. So 2 touchdown passes that were barely missed, and I know that Lamar's taking a lot of flack for those seemingly today because people see him miss a ball by 2 feet and they're thinking, oh my gosh, the end of the world. Brother, maybe somebody block for him or get your protection in a good way. If you're putting your third down running back out there to block the best defensive tackle, they put him at wide 9 on those plays, and he's still making plays happen. So I don't know what else to say. They're going to need to figure that out.
Yeah, it's tough. If you look back and count how many dropbacks Lamar had where he was just able to do a simple drop back, throw the ball with nothing else in between, it was not a lot. The majority of his dropbacks, he was forced to move around a little bit or scramble out of the pocket just because either guys were not getting open or his protection wasn't holding up. You're not going to be able to get away with that for a 17-game season and come out saying this was a successful season for Baltimore. This is going to be, I think, this will be a long season for them. There's going to be other tough defenses they go up against, plenty in their own division. They're going to have to figure some stuff out. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and then also just the Ronnie Stanley thing with the illegal formations.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we going to say about it? They if they want to make it a point that that's what they're going to call this year, it's up to players to
It
adjust.
feels very reminiscent of the Jawan Taylor stuff from early last season. It was a big thing for the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then I think we kind of forgot about it.
Exactly. Which is surprising because they literally didn't call Jawan Taylor, even though the entire game I was sitting there going, wait, why are they so mad at Ronnie Stanley?
Starting a lot. He was false starting again a lot last night.
Yeah, all the time. So it's going to be another long season for him, unfortunately. But it was a great game, a great way to start off the slate. I can't wait. These teams are both going to be very good. Just because the Ravens did not look great in their first outing does not mean that they're not going to pick it up. Not every team is the Chiefs.
They're going to be a good football team. I think they might struggle to make the playoffs, unfortunately. This is just a stacked AFC conference, a lot of healthy quarterbacks coming back. They're going to be good. It's tough, though. It's a very tough road for them.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about when we were talking about divisional futures a little bit earlier in the offseason. It's a strong division, and right now the Bengals are looking really strong, except for some weird, questionable health statuses coming into the week, but we'll get into that probably a little bit later, maybe.
Yeah, might be seeing Jermaine Burton as wide receiver 1 for the Bengals this week.
Yeah, I
That'd be
know,
fun.
right? And it's so funny too. I have so, just a second on the Jermaine Burton thing. So I couldn't make it to our 32 teams in 32 days wrap up the other day, and during the Bengals show a couple months ago, I was like, I wasn't super high on Jermaine Burton, but I guess we'll see. And like they could potentially have a spot for him. And then he played amazing in the preseason, just amazing. And I'm like, I'm wrong. Sorry, y'all. And then the Bengals are like, yeah, no, we're going to put the kid from Yale in. And, I get it. I get what, people are going out to pick him up in fantasy because that's, the way that people do it. But don't believe your lion eyes, everybody. Jermaine Burton is going to get the ball this season. He's going to get on the field, and I will put everything behind that. So anyway, that's completely off topic, but I just had to get that off because I didn't get to get into the 32 teams in 32 days wrap up. But so we have another game that we're actually going to break into right now here, which is actually starting in about an hour from now, just under an hour from now. And that is the Green Bay Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in a rare Friday night football. And it's taking place in Sao Paulo, Brazil. There's been some players have reportedly had some questions about safety and things like that. I haven't heard any news of anything bad happening up to this point. So all's well that ends well, hopefully. And we're looking at the Eagles having a -2. I was going to say at home, but it's not at home. They're in Brazil. So total for this game, roughly about 49 points, depending on where you shop. I'm not going to lie. I kind of lean +2.5 here for Green Bay. It's not a super strong lean, but one thing that I do like is just what we've seen from both of these teams the last time we saw them. Now, I understand that both of these teams had a playoff exit, and that's disappointing, but Green Bay finished the year as well as anybody could have hoped or expected. Jordan Love led the NFL in PFF pass grade from week 7 onward, which is honestly shocking. Every time I look up the stat, I'm literally shocked. First playoff win of the Love era. They put up 48 on the Cowboys in Dallas.
That was their first home loss of the season.
Yeah, in Dallas, 48 points. They added Josh Jacobs to the backfield this year. They also, added some back end help in the secondary, which they struggled with a little bit last year. They signed free safety Xavier McKinney, one of the best safeties in the league, and that's a great signing for them. On the other hand, you have the Eagles. They just ran out of gas. They're a strong team. Every year we think this is a great roster. Howie Roseman's done it again. The Eagles won the offseason, but they just can't quite start strong and stay strong. Well, they start strong. They just can't stay strong. They sputtered to the playoffs. They just ran out of gas. They got slapped by Tampa in Tampa, 32-9. They're still a very talented roster. And like I said, extremely talented.
Look at this offensive skill group for Philadelphia, and there's nothing else you can say besides this is an extremely talented roster.
They're so talented. And then defensively too. Like they have these holes, and Howie Roseman goes all out to fill them and get some treats on top. So they worked really hard in the offseason to get this done. Absolutely stole Saquon Barkley from the Giants. Drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the secondary. That was their biggest hole last year, was that all of a sudden nobody could cover. The entire secondary just lost touch with how to play together. Even Darius Slay struggled at times. As much as Darius Slay is a talented corner that we've seen play really good ball for most of his career, he struggled at times. But now they have some options. Now they have some people that are going to play pretty well for them. So that's something we're going to see. But like I said, I'm leaning off of the Packers kind of carrying that momentum. Jordan Love, man, he has been playing great. And while the Eagles obviously have a better roster on paper, both these teams on the road, I think I'm going with the one that showed that they can produce offensively a lot higher level than the Eagles did last year. So that's where I'm leaning. V, what do you see with this matchup?
Yeah, I definitely think the key in this game is going to be Green Bay passing attack versus this Philadelphia secondary. You already mentioned it. They brought in a couple rookies with their first 2 picks. They're going to have to get something out of these guys, whether it's Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, or even Keely Ringo from last year, who was their 4th-round pick. Because James Bradbury is not playing today. He's on IR. He's going to miss at least a part of the season. I'm not sure exactly how long it is right now. But right now, outside of Darius Slay, there's not a ton of proven talent. So 1 or 2 of these guys is going to have to step up this season if Philly wants to make any sort of run, because you can't just – there's too many good offenses in this league. There's a lot of good offenses in the NFC. You're going to have to play some good defense in the secondary. This is a tough matchup to start if you're one of those rookies. This is a very solid Green Bay passing attack. They were the youngest team in the league last year. They're probably still one of the youngest teams in the league. The receivers are very young, but they've had another offseason to develop, whether it's Romeo Dobbs, Shaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, another offseason to learn with Matt LaFleur, one of our better pass play callers in this game. So it's a very tough matchup for Philadelphia's young secondary, and I think they could struggle in this game today. So I think it's fair to say, also leaning Green Bay plus 2.5. I think it could be a nice outing for Jordan Love in that offense.
Yeah. And, one would also hope that Josh Jacobs is going to kind of recapture that 2022 performance. That was
you would really hope so, because just giving up on Aaron Jones to go grab Josh Jacobs that's either going to be one of the smartest decisions or one of the worst decisions of this past offseason, because it just felt like a very weird and unnecessary move when you have a guy as good as Aaron Jones right there in your own backyard to just move off of him and grab Josh Jacobs. It was strange, so we'll see if it pays off for them or not.
Right, exactly. And it's almost like on the surface, at least from last year, you're looking at, Aaron Jones was probably, considerably better in a lot of aspects. I mean, now he can't do everything.
He was not very healthy last season, but he was when he was on the field. He was a lot better than Josh Jacobs.
Exactly.
He was way better than Josh Jacobs last year.
Exactly. And part of that is probably, Green Bay's offense versus whatever the Raiders were running last year.
That's fair.
You have a lot going on, but all things considered, you hope Josh Jacobs can recapture that magic that he had a few years ago. So that is definitely going to be an interesting game. Like I said, kicks off here in about an hour, just under an hour, and we're going to be off air before that happens, just in time. Oh, which reminds me, we started a little bit early tonight, which I'm going to have to announce at the end again because I completely forgot this. We started a little bit early tonight. Usually the show is going to start about 8 p.m. Eastern, but we wanted to get you guys out of here in time for the game and us out of here in time for the game. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I definitely want to catch that one.
I'm trying to catch that one too. So now we head into the week, though. The early slate. In the first game I have on here, I was shocked. I had to double take that this was the line for this game, to be frank. We have Pittsburgh at Atlanta. Atlanta favored by 3. The total for this game, about 42.5 points. And I'm not going to lie, V, I wholly unapologetic. I'm not sure what they're thinking. I'm not sure what odds makers are thinking, that this isn't even because for anybody that doesn't know, generally a team at home is going to be gifted 3 points by odds makers, just the home field advantage. That's how it usually, or they're going to have to eat 3 points, not gifted. Yeah. They have to eat 3 points. That's just how it works when you play at home. And this is telling me that odds makers see the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons as a similar team on a neutral field. I don't see that. I don't agree with that. Kirk Cousins in a dome, not in primetime. Need I say more? We've already seen this dude enough. We know what he can do. And now we have to ask questions of how he's going to come back from his Achilles. And that's all fine and dandy. And I completely understand. But I don't think the Falcons were going to pay him a bunch of money if they were that worried about it. And frankly, I think that even with Michael Penix, they'd be better off than what's happening right now in Pittsburgh. Cousins is A++ over what they had prior. It's just no contest versus
we would be better than what they had prior. Let's be real.
It was really tough for what they were doing last year. And it's at points in this offseason, it got me defending Arthur Smith at weird points, which is just so strange.
Not a place you want to be.
I know, right? It's so weird. I find myself going, what am I doing here? But it literally, they were so net negative at passer that it was like, I mean, I kind of get why this guy, Arthur Smith, has to take all of these shot plays out of his playbook because they can hit the broadside of the barn at some points. And that's why that entire quarterback room is now, I don't even think, signed anywhere right now. So defense obviously improved with the trade for Matt Judon and the signing of Justin Simmons. Now, Justin Simmons isn't necessarily right up there with his, all pro days, but he's still a very talented commander in the secondary.
Yeah.
And I would see that being a cohesion as a secondary. It takes a lot for that. So I might have disconnected there for a second. My screen blipped, but
You're back now. You're good.
okay. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, I'm worried about Pittsburgh. The offensive output in Pittsburgh is not looking good. The team had trouble evaluating quarterbacks on the roster because the roster is so poor. They were struggling to find separation at receiver. They had no blocking all preseason. And add into the fact that Russell Wilson has a penchant to hold the ball too long and invite pressure in, I see this being a huge issue. Now, I've said it before that I think Arthur Smith is a better fit for Russell Wilson than the Sean Payton's offense was, but I don't see the personnel being conducive to what either of them does well. Unfortunately, that's just the world that we live in right now. They're 2 off seasons away from really having a competitive offense again. And this defense is going to be amazing. They're going to be very, very good again. They could be the best defense in NFL history for all I care. It isn't going to matter much because of how bad the offense is. It is going to drag them down quite a bit. They're going to be on the field a lot, the defense that is, and it's just a struggle here. So I'm leaning Atlanta -3. I think that's the easiest 3 that I don't think that they're going to be -3 at home against a team this bad for the rest of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. And then the under 42.5. I think Atlanta's defense is improved and the Steelers are going to struggle so mightily on offense that I think it's going to be tough to get an over on this. And Pittsburgh's defense is obviously good. While I think Atlanta's offense is going to be better, I think that's going to be the matchup that's going to happen and going to be anywhere close to putting points on the board, not the other side of the ball. So that's where I lean with this one. Do you see anything in this one, V?
Yeah, I'm probably right there with you. I think the other factor to consider is we don't know 100% if Russell Wilson is starting this week. He popped up with an injury, I think, yesterday or the day before, a calf injury. So I think there's talk about Justin Fields possibly starting this game this week, but I don't think that changes too much. I think both quarterbacks are not very good right now. If you saw them play at all during the preseason, both of them struggled quite a bit. When I first saw this line in the offseason, I was like, ooh, Mike Tomlin, 3-point underdog. I'm going to have to jump on that right away. But as soon as we started seeing those preseason games, trying to watch these quarterbacks play, it became abundantly clear that you can't bet on these guys right now until you see something out of either quarterback. And it's tough sledding because I think if you look at the roster around them, it's pretty solid. I like their offensive skill group pretty. I mean, I'm not the biggest Najee Harris guy, but you still got Jalen Warren there who can give you some juice. George Pickens has the potential to be a top flight wide receiver in this game. And then, like you said, the defense has so many dudes, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. I think Nick Herbig is going to have a monster year as a second or third year guy in the league. He looked fantastic in the preseason. You still got Joey Porter back there. So there's a lot of talent on this team, but you're really being held back by your quarterback position again this year. And, don't be fooled. Just because Kenny Pickett was able to sneak into the playoffs last year doesn't mean these guys are going to be able to this year. The AFC, again, it's much stronger this year. There's all these quarterbacks who were out last year who got injured are back fully healthy. This is going to be a very, very contentious conference. So do not expect Pittsburgh to find their way into the playoffs again this season.
Yeah, completely agree. So we move on to the next game on our slate, and that is the Arizona Cardinals heading into Buffalo to take on a bit of, a new look to the Bills. So the Bills, though, are in familiar territory as 6-point favorites at home. Total on this game, anywhere between 47 and 48 points. V, what are you liking in this one?
I am liking the Arizona Cardinals +6.5. I think this line is just a little bit too big. I think earlier in the offseason, you could have found this at +7, maybe even 7.5. If you're able to jump on that, that's tremendous value, but I'm still going to take it. at 6.5. I'm not comfortable with this Buffalo Bills team right now. I'm seeing a lot of, season predictions that have been coming out the last week or so with people putting Buffalo in the Super Bowl. I just can't see that right now. I'm even struggling to put them in the playoffs because, I mean, this roster is just so much different than it was in previous years. I still love Josh Allen. I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now. But this is going to be a tall, tall order for him to lead this team to a long playoff run. Just looking at their offensive skill group, it's just so young, so unproven. You're talking about Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. Those are good. That could become a very, very solid core in a year or two. But I think expecting them to do big things right off the bat, it's tough. I like James Cook, but he had issues last year. He fumbled the ball a couple times. You saw him make some crazy bad drops when there was nobody around him. The ball hit him right in the hands. He's going to have to make massive improvements. I think it's just tough. And then on defense, I mean, how many guys have they lost this offseason on defense who were critical pieces for them? Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White. You lose Matt Milano to another season-ending injury before the season even starts. Those are massive, massive hits to this team that you can't really afford to lose. And now you're going up against the Arizona Cardinals team that should be relatively good on offense. They have super good pieces, whether it's Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. James Conner continues to be slept on, but he's still one of the better running backs in the game. He just continues to get it done on the ground as a running back. There's just a lot of good guys. And Kyler Murray looked good after, coming back from his injury last year. Obviously a little bit rusty maybe to start, but he finished off the season strong, and now he's had a full offseason to continue to recover, continue to get better. Second year of this offense under Jonathan Gannon and their new OC. So I think they could do some real damage on offense this year. I'm pretty high on them. I don't know if they're good enough to make the playoffs because their defense still not great, but this is an up-and-coming team, whereas I think Buffalo has a lot of work to do to retool their roster before they're going to be, I think, truly competitive again. I think just penciling them in because they have a good quarterback it's not the way I see it. It's just too competitive of a conference. I think giving them this many points, you're not going to continue seeing them being these giant favorites as you have the past 2 or 3 seasons. I think these lines are going to shrink as the season goes on.
And this I think is also a note of something that we said all last season. Buffalo continued to get these lines all last season, and we faded them week in and week out because of this exact reason. Even with the talent that they had on their roster last year, they were banged up at times, and they just didn't play as well as they were on paper. And we made a lot of money off of fading them. And I think this year we're seeing more of the same. And I don't think it'll last as long, quite obviously. But, this is one of the bigger survivor pool picks out there right now that I keep seeing. And I have
I never considered it for even a second.
It makes zero sense to me. It makes zero sense to me. This is one of the bigger survivor pool picks out there. For anybody listening out there, do not tag your survivor pool.
They're going to play New England twice this year. Hold on to Buffalo.
Hold on to Buffalo. You're going to be fine. And especially when, like you said, Arizona is more of an upcoming team. Now we have to see them prove it with live, game action and put something together. But they got one of the absolute best receiver prospects most evaluators have ever seen in their time evaluating football.
And they were saying this after like his freshman season, like 2 years ago.
He is the real deal blue chip wide receiver prospect that people wait years and years for. And they have him. They got him. And that's a great pick. They didn't have to pick him at 1 either. So, it's a great grab for them. I think that if they can get that chemistry going, they're going to be a much, much improved team this year. And as you hit it, Bills lost way too many people. I've been railing about the Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer losses. That is going to be huge. You lost the heart of your defense with those two guys. Those two guys were like brothers back there. You heard them talk about each other all the time. Like they played well together and they led this defense. And now they're both gone. Yeah. And while they still have some talented players on the defense, it's going to be hard when you lose your glue guys like that. So I'm right there with you. I think that this is a big fade for the Buffalo Bills, and I think we'll continue to fade them if they continue to get lines like this. So
yeah, absolutely.
The next game we have on the list is a little Mason special. We're riding the freaking Miami Dolphins, V. It's week 1 again, which means the Dolphins are 100% going to cover, because for the first month of the season, they are always electric. As soon as December hits, though, it's okay. We know what to do. We're going to fade them by then. But we're going to make some money off of them in the meantime. I'm really excited by this because, again, this is another one of those lines we talked about with the Atlanta game where you see Jacksonville heading into Miami. Miami -3. Total on this game, 49. Get in early on the Miami train. We always know, and I just don't understand why odds makers don't catch on that Miami is always a strong early team. Last season, in their first 6, they were 5-1 against the spread. They went 6-2 as home favorites last year in 2023. I'm completely comfortable taking them here, especially when you just see, what they did with all the speed that they've added. I continue to say it. The speed is insane. And I think we just saw it too with Kansas City and Xavier Worthy. Speed changes how teams play you. They were absolutely terrified of him after just a couple of touches. And I think that there is going to be a lot of fear in the Jacksonville defense over what this Miami offense can bring. They're strong in the secondary. Also, there's some ball hawks. Jalen Ramsey just signed a new deal. I think that they're geared up and ready to go. And if they can stay healthy, they can continue their usually strong starts late into the season. We just haven't seen it for years. They just always fall apart late down the stretch. But they're always strong in the beginning, man. They're always strong in the beginning. For Jacksonville, though, I don't feel like they moved the needle offensively or in the offseason. They don't move the needle much offensively. They lost Calvin Ridley. Now, that's a question. He got a huge contract that I don't necessarily think he was worth, but now that's another question for another day. But they have an aging O-line, and they didn't really address it much. It struggled quite a bit. The roster didn't get much better this season. While I love Trevor Lawrence, and I think Trevor Lawrence continues to take steps and will continue to elevate the roster around him, it's just not enough with what they have right now. So I'm going to fade Jacksonville until I really see what they're able to do. But I know what Miami does at the beginning of the season. I'm going to be riding that train until the wheels fall off, baby. But V, you know me, I look at this game with teal and orange colored glasses because I love me some Dolphins early in the year. What do you see with this one?
Yeah, I definitely had this one circled as a potential pick for me this week as well. But the line is kind of jumping between 3 and 3.5, and it feels like it's settled at 3.5. And I figured there might be better spots. But if you can get it at the 3 without the hook, definitely totally there with you at taking Miami. They should be potent on offense once again. They're pretty much bringing the band back together, so expect to see fireworks again from them early on. Excited to see what new stuff Mike McDaniel has cooked up. The defense will be interesting. They did lose Christian Wilkins, who is a phenomenal player. I think Jalen Phillips is still recovering from his torn ACL last season. Bradley Chubb, I think, maybe also got her. I'm trying to remember. We'll have to see what they're dealing with on the front seven. And then even in the secondary, you mentioned they have Jalen Ramsey. I think they also got Jordan Poyer now too, but it'll be interesting to see what else they can do in the secondary there. So I think their defense is a little bit of a question mark, but I don't think it's going to matter too much in this game. I don't see Jacksonville offensively being able to do a whole lot. I think the Trevor Lawrence discourse is extremely strange. So many teams would do so much to have a guy like him on their football team. They just don't realize it because I don't know. They're maybe just looking at the box score stats or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're actually watching Trevor Lawrence play, he's still a phenomenal player. He's still getting better. I just don't know if I trust the roster around him offensively. I don't know if I trust the coaching around him right now. It's a tough situation because you obviously had to pay him what you did because he's a good quarterback. But now that you're paying him, or that salary is going to come in the next couple of seasons, it's going to be tougher to build around him. It feels like they did the one thing you can't do, which is waste your rookie quarterback contract. And unfortunately, I don't know how they're going to manage that going forward, but we'll worry about that when we get there. At least for this week, it looks like Miami is a good play.
Mm-hmm. $487 million in quarterback contracts takes the field in this one between Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa.
My goodness.
That is a hefty
Did you see
dollar.
that post about the what is it, 2018 Alabama team making $1 billion in contract earnings or something like
I
that? It was
did
nuts.
not, but I'm not surprised. That's
It was
that's
wild.
crazy.
Obviously that includes Tua.
Yeah, of course. That's insane. The next game we have here on the list is actually surprisingly a really interesting
Oh
one.
yeah.
I think more people are wishy-washy on the Titans and on the Bears than I think they're giving them credit for,
Mhm.
frankly. So what I see is the Bears are going to be hosting the Titans at home in Chicago, -3.5. The total for this game, a little weird. It's been jumping quite a bit. 44.5 in some spots,
Yeah.
45.5 in some spots.
It
I
has
don't know
been
you.
going up the last few weeks, which is very surprising.
It's a little odd, and I think it's probably just some excitement for obviously Caleb Williams, and I'm really excited for Chicago's offense as well. I think the number continues to get too high though, and we'll kind of break into that here in a minute. Um, I'm leaning at the under as well.
Same.
V, I see you're leaning at the under. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, very interesting, this line movement on the total. I think it opened at 42.5, and I was ready to jump on the under then, and then over the last couple weeks, I'm seeing it slowly crawl up to now 44.5, 45. I just I don't understand. I understand there's a ton of hype around Caleb Williams. I'm right there with all my, Bears fans out there, but still a rookie quarterback, still playing his first game. Over the last 4 seasons, there have been 12 quarterbacks drafted in the first round who have started a game in their rookie season. Those 12 quarterbacks have averaged 14.25 points in their very first game in NFL. Rookie quarterbacks do not start off hot. Even CJ Stroud last year struggled. I think that they played Baltimore in week 1. They did not score more than 10 points in that game. And obviously, we know CJ Stroud went to do on from there. So it's not like this one game is not going to be some indication of what happens for the rest of the season, but it's just what happens. Rookie quarterbacks do not start off strong, and this is a good Tennessee defense that made a ton of moves. We mentioned it earlier. They traded for L'Jarius Sneed. They also recently traded for Dernish Jones from Los Angeles. They brought in some guys in the secondary: Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams. Adams is going to be out for this game, but still they have some nice pieces there. They still have Jeffrey Simmons. They still have Harold Landry. This should be a solid defense. They also drafted Tavondre Sweat, a monster defensive tackle from Texas. So, a lot of pieces on this defense. And then on the flip side, Chicago in the second half of the season had one of the best defenses in the NFL. They were tied for the league lead in interceptions last year, one of the best run stopping teams in the NFL. I think this is also going to be an extreme struggle for Tennessee's offense to get anything going. Looks like DeAndre Hopkins is not going to be playing in this game. He's dealing with a MCL injury right now. So that leaves you with Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd and maybe Treylon Burks as your top receivers. Going up against this Chicago secondary, that's not going to go very well. I don't know what Tony Pollard still has left after his not very good season last year. So him and Tyjae Spears, I like Tyjae Spears quite a lot. He was doing some hurdling in the preseason. That was pretty awesome to watch, but we'll have to see if he's how effective he'll be in the regular season. I just don't see either offense having good performances at all. I think this game stays below 40 total points, to be honest. So seeing this line at 44.5 is very surprising.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And one of the things, so just to speak a little positively for Tennessee, and we kind of talked about this in our 32 teams in 32 days breakdown, but Tennessee didn't just sit on their hands all offseason. They added a ton of free agents. They spent a ton of money in free agency.
Yeah,
They added some pieces on the offensive line. They added some weapons. They added some defense. They, like you said, they got Tavondre Sweat in the draft to anchor the center of that defensive line, and that could be a huge game changer for them. I don't think they're going to be as bad as everybody is kind of counting them out to be, as dead on arrival. Like you said, I think they're going to have a decent
yeah,
defense. I think they're going to be, they're going to give some teams that struggle offensively real fits. And we're going to be like, whoa,
yeah.
Tennessee. But at the same time, I'm really high on Chicago. And I think you're 100% right. You have to fade the rookie quarterback absolutely blowing it out of the water, which makes the 3.5 for Chicago a little bit, risky, that I'm not necessarily leaning to take. But I think they will be a very good offense this year. I think I don't even need to continue to hash it out. They're going to look excellent offensively. What I'm really excited to see is this defense.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, and you hit the nail on the head. They were excellent defensively last year, and they look like they just got better if you watch them in the preseason. They are throwing out some of the most unique and vicious blitz packages I think I've ever seen in a preseason game. They literally pulled out all the stops on backups.
Against backups. That's what I was going to say. I feel bad for those backups.
Literally, they're getting 7-man zone 3 fire blitzes against second and third stringers. Like, they were unafraid to throw the entire kitchen sink in the preseason, and I love that. I love that. Matt Eberflus is trying to see what he has in his defense, and we've, talked and they've struggled at times, and we've had questions, but I don't think we have those questions anymore. I think they're going to be rock solid defensively. I think they're going to be one of the better defensive units. They returned Jalen Johnson, who was one of the best, if not the best corner in the NFL last season. We talk about Sweat. The addition of Sweat was huge. Nobody's even talking about the kid they got out of the 5th round this year, Austin Booker, who looks like a gamer, opposite, which is one of the reasons why they decided to take a back seat on some of the, edge rushers and things who were on the trade market this offseason. They didn't shop for Judon. They didn't shop for Hassan Reddick. Yeah. They didn't shop for Hassan Reddick. Like, they're unconcerned. And that's because they actually have drafted really well and have good depth. And it's a first. It's weird. And I talk to Chicago fans too. And so many Chicago fans, you, Steve, Neil, our friend of the show, Brendan Fleming. I'm friends with a bunch of Bears fans, and even they're hesitant. And they have to tell me to relax because I'm more excited about this team than even some of them. So I'm really looking forward to that. And when you look at what they're going to be going up against with Will Levis, no DeAndre Hopkins, it worries me when you're going to probably see as many blitzes as they're going to throw at them. So that's where I am. Under 45, under 44.5. If you can get it at the 45.5, go do it. But that's kind of, I think we're in the same boat right there.
For sure.
The next game we have on the list, stop me if I spend too much time on this game, because it'll literally just cascade into me not saying very nice things about the Carolina Panthers. So we mentioned this on our division winners show this offseason, or I mentioned it rather. Carolina is shaping up to look like a perpetually lost team for the next foreseeable future. And it sucks because they could potentially be good. I was high on Bryce Young. I still think Bryce Young has the ability to play really good football in this league. I do not think that will come in a Carolina Panthers uniform because right now they have nothing going for them. And that's putting it, frankly, lightly. And for them to not play pretty much any of their starters for most of the preseason until the very last game when they were kind of guilted into putting Bryce Young out there because it was like, hey, you guys have looked pretty bad all preseason and you looked pretty bad last year. This is kind of that time that you guys should be figuring out, the pieces that are solid on this team. And I just don't think that their approach to the preseason was wise.
Very curious.
At any turn. Just a note on Bryce Young's career production against division rival Saints. Bryce Young totaled across 2 games a 46.1 PFF passing grade. That is very bad. He had 4 turnover-worthy plays. 1 game, he had 3 turnover-worthy plays. He was sacked 9 times. That's a lot. That is a lot no matter how you cut it for 2 games. And that's not going to cut it, especially when we haven't seen them all offseason. And you know what? The Saints may not be the most impressive roster. But guess what? They're a lot better than a 3.5-point favorite against Carolina. And this defense is the reason why. They are still strong defensively. That's been their calling card the last couple of years, even though we continue to discredit the offense for a variety of reasons. They lack playmakers. Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but he's kind of removed from his days of being a great quarterback. But that's just worlds different from what you're seeing in Carolina right now. So, like I said, I'm not going to rail on it too much, or I'll start saying really mean things about Carolina, and the people of the great state of North Carolina will start hating me. But they'll send me mean things on Twitter, and I just don't like that because I want them to be good. I like Bryce Young. I just think that they are lost right now. Anything you're seeing from this one, V?
Yeah, I just don't feel comfortable betting the Saints as a favorite at all right now until they show me something. I think I have New Orleans as my dark horse to be the worst team in the league this year. There's nothing about this team at all that excites me whatsoever, whether it's offensively, defensively. I don't understand what they're doing with their coaching staff at all. Like, what are you getting with Dennis Allen that is so special that you have to keep him on when there's so many there have to be better options out there. It's just impossible for me to believe that there's not anything out there. I think their defense has some big names, but I don't know how good they are anymore. They're quite a bit older, whether it's Marshawn Lattimore, Cameron Jordan, all these guys, Tyrann Matthew. I think these guys are just old now. I don't know if they still have it in them. I don't think they have any young guys I'm super excited about. We'll see if, Brian Brzee, who was their first round pick last year, can make an improvement. We'll see if Kool-Aid McKinstry can do something in that secondary. But it just feels like it's unproven right now for some of the young guys, and for the old guys, it just feels like they don't have a ton left in the tank. And then I can't bet on Derek Carr right now. He's just not a quarterback I trust. I don't want to bet on Carolina either at any point. So I can understand why you would bet on the Saints. Right. I just can't do it with New Orleans right now.
It's totally really and it's totally like I get it. So like pretty much all preseason when I'm rolling through all the teams' camp news and stuff, and you roll into New Orleans and they're just nothing. There's like nothing happens. Nothing happens. They're not like exciting. They're very lunch pail. They're not the Sean Payton Saints of yesteryear. They just show up and do what they do. And I don't think that they're exciting, and I don't think that they're necessarily going to go far or even take down a pretty weak NFC South. But I think that what I'm seeing from Carolina is what I think is.
At least they tried, though, right? I mean, they brought in guys, whether it's Deontay Johnson, they signed a couple guards to big contracts. They tried to draft a couple offensive weapons. I mean, they're trying at least. I mean, maybe it doesn't translate to anything.
Yeah.
But I can see somewhat of a vision in Carolina, even if they're still being held back by their quarterback. Whereas I think it's more than I think it's more
just the quarterback, though. I think they have two players on defense. They're like -9 players on a defense. And frankly, I think that while they've made some improvements on the O-line, they're still like they haven't looked at all good in their preseason performances. And that's where it's like, it's scary. It's scary what the floor could be, especially if they have money tied up in names that aren't doing anything. And like, this is a young team. Like, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, the youth on that team is going to be a glaring issue. Maybe they're better in a few years, but it legitimately right now looks to me like if they can't figure it out, and if they end up going the route of what seems like will be the route, which is very short leashes for all of their head coaches, I think it's going to be really, really tough to get any foundation there. And
for sure.
while the Saints are just not an exciting team by most metrics, I think that the veteran presence there is just enough that it's going to be like almost two different worlds of like, this team is an NFL team. And while I get what you're saying too, they are very old. The Saints might be, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the Saints on paper feel like one of the oldest rosters in the NFL. And if everybody stays healthy, that's fine. You're going to have a very baseline floor for most of the season. But if any of those guys get hurt or anybody starts to fall off or whatever, like, that the floor starts to fall out very quickly there. So I'm definitely with you on that. Oh, V.
Had to do it.
It's that time of year again. We have another Denver Broncos under to talk about. I'm not going to lie right here. So let me set up the game first. Broncos head into Seattle to take on the Seahawks. The Hawks are minus 5.5 point favorites. 6 in some spots, just depends on where you're shopping. Anywhere between 41.5 to 42 points on the total. You, are leaning on the under at 42. And before I let you break into it, I just have to get off my chest real quick. It took everything in my power not to take the Broncos at +6, man.
Don't do it.
Everything in my
Don't
power.
do it.
I wanted to do it so
it's
bad.
It's a bad pick.
I wanted to do it so bad, but I didn't. I contained myself. I held myself back. While I think as a, Denver native that I think the Broncos are going to be much better than I think a lot of people expect. I get that the roster's not great, but man, I love Bo Nix. I love me some Bo, man. Bo knows, baby. Bo throws. So, I am going to have to, what is it judges do? Recuse myself. I'm going to have to recuse myself from abstain. I have to abstain from this one. So V, go ahead and break down the game for all the folks at home. What are you seeing with this matchup between the Broncos and the Seahawks?
Well, first, let me say I'm very happy you did not take Denver +6 because Seattle is my survivor pick for week 1. So that would be very, very awkward if that didn't work out. But I don't think this game is going to be particularly close. This is a brutal matchup if you are a rookie quarterback and this is your first game in the NFL. I think Seattle has a chance to be an elite defense this year. They have so many dudes to be excited about. Let's start just in the secondary. Obviously, they have Tariq Woolen, who was a breakout player a couple of years ago. Had a bit of a down year last year. Then there were some injuries that played into it. Then they're expecting a lot of big things from him in year 3. Obviously, they took Devin Witherspoon in the top 5 or top 6 last year.
Spoon is good, man. He's so good.
He has a chance to be a superstar in the NFL. They traded for Leonard Williams last season. They brought in Jonathan Hankins over the offseason. And then they drafted big boy Byron Murphy out of Texas to bolster up that defensive line. And then, obviously, the big one, they bring in Mike Macdonald to be their head coach. He was a defensive coordinator for Baltimore the last 2 seasons. In 2022, Baltimore was 3rd in the league in points allowed. Last year, they were 1st. So this dude knows what he is doing on the defensive side of the ball. I think this is going to be an unbelievable defense. I just don't see how a rookie quarterback is going to be able to have any sort of success against them. Very, very tough matchup for them. I don't see them scoring more than like 10 points in this game. So this is an easy under for me.
Hey, I feel it. I could see it happening. And, truth be told, Mike Macdonald knows ball. Mike Macdonald knows ball. And I feel like I didn't necessarily touch on it quite enough when I was talking about the Seahawks pretty much all offseason. Mike Macdonald knows ball. He's going to get that defense in a really good place. I love Spoon, man. Spoon is so good. He is a ball player, man. They use him, or they did use him in a variety of ways. He covers the slot as good as anybody in the league. They would blitz him at times, and he'd come away with some vicious sacks. It's just so much fun to watch this dude. It doesn't get said enough, but being a slot corner, it's not enough to just cover. You got to come in there and fit the run with some enthusiasm. And while Spoon might not be the absolute epitome of run stopper, he is a willing dude to stick his nose in there. And you see him. It's not a fake. So he plays really well. I love watching Spoon play, and I could definitely see where it goes. And you know what? We were on it pretty much all last year for slightly different reasons, but Broncos unders are probably still going to be on the books for quite a while. So I'm right there with you. I do agree. But man, I love the Broncos. Bo throws, baby. Bo's back.
We'll see.
The next game we have on the list in the late slot is the Las Vegas Raiders heading into LA to take on Jim Harbaugh's Chargers. The Chargers favored by 3 at home. The total for this game, 39 points, about 40 points, 40.5 points, depending on where you're shopping. What are you seeing in this one? What are you liking on that?
This is the game that is my favorite spread of the week. And like you said earlier, with a couple of games that you just didn't understand the line, this is that game for me this week. I just do not understand this line. This opened up at 3.5. So if you were able to get Vegas at plus 3.5, monster value, I think. I still really love them at plus 3, but I just don't understand Los Angeles being a favorite right now. I don't. They're just getting way too much of a Harbaugh bump right now. I understand Jim Harbaugh is a phenomenal coach. He has success wherever he goes, but it's not instantaneous. It takes some time. You saw what happened in Michigan. It took him several years, several seasons to finally build up to the roster to the point where they were actually a competitive team competing for a national championship. And I think it's going to take time here in Los Angeles. This is a brutal, brutal roster outside of Justin Herbert. You lose Keenan Allen, you lose Mike Williams. Their pass catchers are Josh Palmer, DJ Chark, and rookie Lad McConkey. That is a horrendous, horrendous receiver group. It might be last in the league. It might be worse than Carolina has, which is saying a lot. I mean, this is terrible. And their running backs are Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. There's just nothing at all to be excited about in this offense outside of Justin Herbert. And I think that the offensive line is going to end up being really good with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. But if you don't have anybody to throw the ball to, if you don't feel comfortable about the guys you're handing the ball off to, I just don't see what this offense is going to do. And then their defense on the flip side, they have some big names with Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, but there's also nothing there either. It's going to take a couple seasons for Harbaugh and their front office to really build over this roster to make them competitive. I think people are just penciling them in to still be a decent-ish team because they have Herbert and they like Harbaugh, but this is not a good roster. On the flip side, I understand that people have questions with Vegas with their quarterback situation with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, but I think it's like the complete inverse. You don't feel good about the quarterbacks, but they have some legit talent on that roster, especially if you look at that offensive skill group. Devonta Adams, Jacoby Myers, rookie Brock Bowers. They're pretty high on Zamir White. Michael Mayer, their second-round tight end from last year, is also considered to be a pretty good player or up-and-coming player. Trey Tucker is a phenomenal deep threat player. They got some dudes on offense, and I think if they had anybody else or like a solid quarterback group, people would be talking about this team as having one of the best pass-catching groups in the league. But they just get kind of glossed over because of the quarterback situation. And then on defense, they're going to have such a fun defensive line to watch with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, who they signed in the offseason. They're going to bully some people. I think they're going to have their way with the Chargers O-line this week, too. I think Las Vegas wins this game outright. I don't understand how they're an underdog. I don't understand how they were a 3.5-point underdog to start when this line first came out. This just doesn't make sense. Los Angeles does not have a good roster.
And the worst part about the LA roster is they don't have any money. They have no money. Like they're already over the cap at the start of the season, and they had to cut or trade as many players as they did, key players to that team, and now they're stuck with Justin Herbert, who had plantar fascia all off season or in camp. And for anybody that does some of that stuff, like that stuff comes back. Like that stuff's hard to shake. That it's fairly debilitating a lot of the times too, when it really is a pain point for them. So I'm right there with you too. Heavy in the chat says Josh Palmer, Jameson Williams, Christian Watkins, or the Bengals slot. I like how it's the Bengals slot because nobody knows how to say Ayasova's name. PPR. Well, Heavy, I'll be honest with you. We're the betting guys. We're not quite the fantasy guys, but we will give you the good old college try. V, what are you liking out of that group?
I'll probably take Jameson Williams for some nice upside play going up against a relatively soft Rams secondary. They don't really have a ton of guys who scare you too much. I think this is going to be a nice offensive outing for Detroit this week on Sunday night. So I'll take Jameson Williams as your high upside.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Frankly, also because I'm not the Christian Watson guy. I'm the guy who always fades Christian Watson. I think, our colleagues might tell you to play Christian Watson potentially. I know Jason will tell you to play Josh Palmer, but I would lean towards what V's saying too. You're going to get some upside in Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams is a really good player. And once he starts getting the opportunities and maybe not getting in his own way with some things, he'll be a really good ball player. Andre Iasovas, is that? I'm probably butchering his name, but the kid that's going to be playing slot for the Bengals. While I don't necessarily think he's going to be the long-term option for them in that receiving core, I think Jermaine Burton had the amazing preseason that we saw from him. It's more than just one game. He graded out great the entire preseason. I think he's going to be fantastic. And I think it's only a matter of time before he works on the field. But given kind of how banged up the Bengals have looked in their wide receiver room, all of a sudden T. Higgins is doubtful and Jamar Chase is questionable after coming back. It's a little bit worrisome. So that might be the safest play, but I think Jameson Williams is probably the upside play that I would go for. If you really, if you're high on Christian Watson, maybe that's the way to go. I'm not usually high on Christian Watson though. I like pretty much every other receiver in their receiving core more than Christian Watson. But that's just me. So yeah, Jameson it is. We'll be back with the receipts. Love it, Heavy. I love it. You come and hit us up. Heavy, if you are in our Discord, definitely shout out the guys and they'll give you their opinion too. So yeah, glad to help. So V, we have the last game on the list here and our own game is going to be starting here in a few minutes. So let's get everybody out of here fairly quickly. Last game on our slate here is the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Cleveland Browns, which is another kind of surprising one to me. I don't know how this continues to be how Oddsmakers are setting the line when Deshaun Watson's Browns were nowhere near as good as Joe Flacco's Browns last year. So that's a conversation for another day, though. But
can you imagine saying that 5 years ago? That was words coming out of your mouth. How insane is that?
I was thinking about that earlier, just insanity that this guy, the sad thing is as much as there's questions on Deshaun Watson's moral character, the sad thing is I don't think anybody would have cared eventually because if he was good, which is sad, which is actually really, really sad and says I think more about our society than anything. But legitimately, he has not been good with the Cleveland Browns, and it feels like he just forgot how to play football. There's been injuries, but even on the field, he's struggled. So here we go. Let me break into this game here. Dallas at Cleveland. Cleveland favored 2.5. Total for this game, 41 points. V, which way are you leaning on this one?
Yeah, definitely leaning Dallas plus 2.5. It's like you said, this is all about Deshaun Watson. You cannot bet on him as a favorite right now until he proves he can play quarterback again. He has started 12 games over the last 3 seasons. That's just not good enough. He's not been healthy. He's not been good when he's been out there. It's been brutal. Offensive line issues for Cleveland as well right now. Jedrick Willis has been ruled out. Jack Conklin is questionable, so we don't really know who they're starting at their left tackle position. That's probably who they're going to have Micah Parsons matched up against, so that's not a good look. So I think they're going to struggle offensively. There are some question marks for Dallas's offense. They have a couple rookies starting on their offensive line, and you don't want to be facing Myles Garrett and Darius Smith as a rookie, but that's what the situation is. So I don't necessarily feel totally great about Dallas's offense in this game, but there's just no chance you can take Deshaun Watson as a favorite over Dak Prescott right now. So that's the entirety of my analysis in this one. It's just I'm fading Deshaun Watson until otherwise noted.
Yeah, I agree. And the Cleveland Browns defense still obviously going to be good because everything's running through Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my matchup to watch in this one is going to be Myles Garrett versus Tyler Guyton.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think it's Cooper Beebe who's going to be starting at center for them.
Yep.
I think they're both good players. I think
Dallas always does a great job drafting offensive linemen. They will be good. It's just how quickly is it going to take for them to get good?
And taking on Myles Garrett in your first taste of the show is not necessarily a welcome to the NFL that you want for your rookie first round left tackle. So I'm right there with you as well. Yeah, I agree. I think 2.5. So I'm higher on the Cowboys just because it feels like they're gonna just completely shuck the run and throw the ball all over the damn
throwing
field
it to though outside of CeeDee Lamb. Do you feel good about it? Anybody
He's
else that
down
you feel
there
good about?
somewhere, bro. He's down there somewhere. I don't care if there's 2, 3, 4 people on him. When you pay him that type of money, he better bring in the ball.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And I mean, I'm with you. Is like they're not like the most talented roster, but I think a lot of the times that whole team just flows through Dak. And if they just let Dak cook, let Dak play. I hate saying I should have not said cook. I just cursed Dak Prescott. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Cowboys fans. No. But if they just let Dak do his thing, like eventually they just stop messing around and just start throwing the hell out of the ball, and they're a better team for it, which is counterintuitive to a lot of degree. You need to have balance to some degree, but why bother? Why
Don't
bother?
give the ball to Zeke Elliott.
Don't give the ball to Zeke Elliott and Rico Dowdle. Like,
Don't do it.
It's just not a conducive thing. They got Dalvin. Didn't they get Dalvin? Or did I have a fever dream that they got Dalvin? I don't even remember.
I think maybe they did.
That's
a terrible running back room.
Not that moves the needle at all, but it's just one of those things that it's like they're not going to be very conducive to running the ball. I think if they lean into that very early and just understand who they are, they'll be better for it. And that's something that we're going to be seeing. But at this point, I'm also leaning with the points in Dallas. So I completely agree. All right. Well, V, that did it. That was the first show of the 2024 season. We did it in pretty good time. We're going to get you guys out in time for Green Bay to take on Philly in Brazil here starting in just a few minutes. Back same time, actually not back same time, back an hour later next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. Can't wait to see you all, guys. If anybody is not in our Discord, head over to importantnonsense.com. Become a member. That's how you can get into the Discord. You can ask us any of your burning questions in there. V and I handle all of the betting questions. Our great, huge team of fantasy experts take on all of your start-sit questions, including the great Jason Draven, which I know everybody knows here. So everybody come in, hit us up. Love to hear it. Also, new this year, we are taking all of your community questions prior to our airing of Locked In every single week. You can get your questions in there, and we will answer them at the beginning of every show. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait to do that. Also, all of our prime time picks, Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, those are all also going to be in the Discord this year. So make sure you check out that and more picks from myself and V as we find them. Picks. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff. Everybody go check it out. But yeah, until then, that about does it. V, do you have any parting words for the folks at home?
Football is back, baby. Enjoy week 1 to everybody. Hope your fantasy teams do well. Hopefully your bets cash in. Hopefully your favorite teams win. Just all best of luck to everybody. Enjoy the next few months. It will be
Can't
phenomenal.
wait. I can't wait to see it play out, partner. Can't wait to do this the whole season long with you. Until next time, everybody. How do I end this? Good night. Good luck.